ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति-वेदान्त स्वामिनिधि नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरतुषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। We are studying Srimad-bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4. Vyasa means Narad Muni, or the appearance of Sri Narad Muni. And we have discussed verses 1 to 13. So in the session today, we are going to look at verses 14 to 25. And if time permits, we will also look at verses after that. In the first section, in the previous class, we discussed that Shaunak Rishi, heading the sages assembled at Naimisharanya, first of all congratulates Sud Goswami on his resolve to narrate Srimad-bhagavatam to all the assembled sages. And then Shaunak Rishi asks 4 questions to Sud Goswami. The first question was asked in verse number 3. The question was, when, why, what, and how first time Srimad-bhagavatam narrated? That was the question. Reading text 3. Kasmin yuge pravitteyam sthane vakena hetuna kutah sanchoditah krishnah kritvan samhitam munihi. In what period and at what place was this first begun? And why was this taken up? From where did Krishna Dvaipayan Vyasa, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature? Now this answer will be given in the remaining verses of this chapter. Verses 14 onwards to the last verse of this chapter, we'll get the answer to this question. Right? Now let's look at verse number 14, which you can see on your screen. to share screen today so that it's easy for those to follow who are watching on YouTube. Verse number 14. Sutta uvacha dvapare samanuprapte tritiye yugaparye jatah parasharad yogi vasavyam kalaya harehe. Sutta uvacha. So Sut Goswami has started giving the answer now. Shaunak Rishi asked the questions. Now Sut Goswami has begun to answer. द्वापरे समनु प्राप्ते तृतीये युग पर्ये जातः पराशरात् योगी वासव्याम कलया हरे. Sut Goswami said, when the second millennium overlapped the third, so this overlapping is called Sandhya. The great sage Vyasadeva was born to Parashar in the womb of Satyavati, the daughter of Vasu. Forward. There is a chronological order of the four millenniums, namely Satya, Dwapar, Treta, and Kali. But sometimes there is overlapping. During the regime of Vaivasvat Manu, there was an overlapping of the 28th round of the four millenniums, and the third millennium appeared prior to the second. In that particular millennium, Lord Sri Krishna also descends. And because of this, there was some particular alteration. The mother of the great sage was Satyavati, the daughter of the Vasu, and the father was the great Parashar Muni. That is the history of Vyasadev's birth. Every millennium is divided into three periods, and each period is called a Sandhya. Vyasadeva appeared in the third Sandhya of that particular age. Now, if you technically analyze this purport, actually, there's not so much of detail given in the commentaries of other acharyas and in other Vedic scriptures. Why this happened? What is explained here in this purport that this happened. So why this happened, this is not so much explained. So we cannot get into the technical details of that. So what is more important to note here is this, that there is Satya Yuga, there is Treta Yuga, there is Dwapar, and there is Kali. In Dwapar Yuga, at the end of Dwapar Yuga, when Dwapar Yuga was almost finishing and Kali-yuga was going to begin, that's the period when Vyasadeva appeared. So each yuga, it has three sections. One section is called the ascending of that yuga. Ascending means the yuga is going to begin. That is called Sandhya. And then, once it has begun, then it comes to its peak when it is fully manifested. That's called the main part of the yuga. And then there is the final one where the yuga is declining or descending, which means it is now transiting into the next one. In the Vedic science, we understand one thing, that whenever there is a change, that change is very, very smooth. It is not a drastic change. Like, to give you an example, the day changes into night, not in a second. There is a transitional period. The day turns into night, and then there comes the evening, which is the period of transition, right? So that's why it's called Sandhya, because it is combining both together. So time flows in this particular manner. It doesn't bring abrupt changes. It brings changes in a very gradual manner. So the yugas, they also change in a gradual manner. It's not that suddenly the Dwapar Yuga will disappear and suddenly Kali Yuga will manifest. It will change in a gradual manner. You will be happy to know that what we are experiencing at present in Kali Yuga is not Kali Yuga in full swing. It is just the beginning of manifestation of Kali Yuga. It's just the ascending period of Kali Yuga, right? And that is the reason why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings and the movement of bhakti that is being accepted by people. When the complete Kali-yuga will come, then it is going to be very, very horrible. Very, very horrible. So this is not yet complete Kali-yuga. It's just begun actually. It's just the ascending part of Kali-yuga. So in the descending part of Dwapar Yuga, when Dwapar Yuga confluenced with Kali-yuga, there was an intersection or overlapping, Sandhya. In that period, Vyasadeva was born. Who was his father? Parashrama. Who was his mother? Satyavati. Again, there is a difference of opinion. So here Srila Prabhupada has mentioned Vasu was a fisherman. And actually, if you look at Mahabharata, Vasu is the father of Satyavati, but Vasu was not a fisherman. Vasu was a king, And then Satyavati was adopted by Dasharaj, who was the king of fishermen. His name was not Vasu, his name was Dasharaj. So Satyavati was born to a royal king, a Kshatriya king, but was then later adopted by Dasharaj, who was the king of the fishermen community. And that's how she then became known as the daughter of a fisherman. So here Srila Prabhupada, maybe because of some kind of confusion or because of some other source he was referring to, in the bracket he put Vasu as a fisherman, the name. So we don't consider that as a big flaw because name hardly matters. The idea is she was adopted by a fisherman and she lived as a daughter of a fisherman. But she was originally born as a daughter of a royal king whose name was Vasu. Going to the next verse. Verse number 15. Sa kadachit sarasvatya upaspirshya jalam suchihi vivikta eka asina uditera vimandale. Sa kadachit, he once. So it's being explained that one time he was Saraswati, on the bank of the Saraswati. So where? In his ashram called Badrika ashram. Upaspirishya, after finishing morning ablutions, Janam Suchihi, being purified by water. So, generally what happens is those who are Brahmanas or who are twice born, they purify themselves by touching the water. They chant some mantras into the water and then they do achman from the water. And in that way, they purify themselves. Those who are pujari or do pujari seva in the temple who know this. And we purify ourselves by sipping some drops of water, doing achman. So he had done his achman, sitting on the bank of the river Saraswati. Vivikta eka asina. Vivikta eka asina means he was concentrating. He was sitting alone and he was concentrating. Udite Ravi Mandale. Udite Ravi Mandale. Ravi Mandale means the sun disk. So you can imagine, the translation is, once upon a time, he, as the sun rose, so it's just the morning dawn time, took his morning ablution in the waters of the Saraswati and sat alone to concentrate. What is this called? This is called once Gayatri. Right? So he's sitting and doing his Gayatri. He's doing meditation on the sacred mantras. That is what one who is twice initiated is supposed to do. In the 3 sandhyas, one should do Gayatri. Gayatri means meditate on the sacred mantras. And through those mantras, one meditates on the Supreme Lord. So he sat alone to concentrate. Purport. The river Saraswati is flowing in the Badrika ashram area of the Himalayas. It is still there. It is still flowing. It can be seen in Badrika ashram. After some time, it merges with the river called Alakananda and it disappears. Then it starts flowing below the river. Saraswati is a very strange kind of river. She is very shy in nature. So she flows below the other rivers. She hides herself. So Badrika ashram, you can see Saraswati, but after some time, it will meet with Alakananda and start flowing below Alakananda. So the place indicated here is Samya Parasha in Badrika ashram, where Sri Vyasa is residing. So you can understand now, right? The time is explained to us when was Srimad-bhagavatam first spoken, or when was this idea originated, and the place is also explained. Go to the next verse number 16. Paravaragyaha sa rishihi kalena vyaktarangasa yuga dharma vyatikaram praptam bhuvi yuge yuge. Paravaragyaha, look at the word meaning. Paravaragyaha or gyaha means one who knows past and future. Para avara. Sa rishihi, he, that great sage, kalena avyaktaranghasa yuga dharma vyatikaram praptam bhuvi yuge yuge. The great sage Vyasadeva saw anomalies in the duties of the millennium. This happens on the earth in different ages due to the unseen force of time. Time is what? Kalaha, right? Like in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, no, chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, in the verse number 2, it says, Evam parampara praptam evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo viduhu sakale nehamaha yogo nashta parantapa. The same word has come, right? Kalina mahata. By the influence of time, this knowledge became lost, right? Right? Same thing is being explained here, that in different yugas, sometimes because of influence of time, what happens is dharma, which is established by the Supreme Lord, it becomes reduced and adharma increases. And Vyasadeva, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, the great sages like Vyasadeva are liberated souls, and therefore they can clearly see past and future. Thus, he could see the future anomalies in the Kali age, and accordingly, he made arrangement for the people in general so that they can execute a progressive life in this age, which is full of darkness. The people in general in this age of Kali are too much interested in matter, Because of ignorance, they are unable to evaluate the assets of life and be enlightened in spiritual knowledge. So Vyasadeva could see this. This is a great quality of the Supreme Lord and the pure liberated souls, that they can see the future. They have that vision. They can foresee the future. And Vyasadeva, as he sat down in meditation, he was able to see this. Interestingly, let me tell you something. Anyone who is initiated as a Brahmana by giving second initiation and the Gayatri mantras, and if that person is a serious candidate of Krishna consciousness, is situated in mode of goodness, then by the chanting of Gayatri mantras, faithfully chanting the Gayatri mantras and following all the principles of Krishna consciousness, a person who is not even a liberated soul yet can also get glimpses of what's going to happen in the future. We'll get those signals, you may call it, instincts, or you may call it sixth sense, whatever. But anyone who is living a pure life and is initiated into sacred Gayatri, by the power of those chanting, a person who is quite conscious and because of situated on mode of goodness, can actually see a lot of things which general people cannot see. This comes because of the power of mantras, because of purification of mind. And Vyasadeva, when he sat down in meditation, all these things started coming into his mind, overflowing into his mind. And he could see all of that. He could see, he could understand all of that. So what does he see? That people in general in this age of Kali are too much interested in matter. This is so true, that people in Kali-yuga, they are attracted by matter. Big buildings, shining cars, right? Nice furniture, They are all enamored by these things, enamored, electronic gadgets. It attracts them so much. We may say, well, this is life, this is the beauty of this world. This is not the beauty of this world. What Krishna has created naturally, we may call that as beautiful. But what we have created by manipulation of matter, it appears beautiful as truth. We are still attracted by temporary things. We don't understand that a building which we have created, however nice looking it may be, after a few years, it's no longer looking. Isn't it? You must have seen Bombay. Even good looking buildings after 5, 10 years, 15 years, because of the rain that comes and all the pollution that comes down onto the buildings. Then you can see those black marks on the buildings. They don't anymore look nice again. Same thing with everything else. You buy a new mobile phone, it has a very clean and clear screen and very nice it looks, but after a few months again it doesn't look so nice, right? But Kali-yuga people, the fault is that they're too much attracted by matter. And they are eager to work hard to acquire matter. Pay huge amounts of money, right? Like few days ago, I was walking in the temple compound and chanting my japa. So one person was talking to some of his relatives. So he's saying, when it comes to spending money on food, one should just close one's eye. That's what you earn money for, to eat nicely. Eat nicely, drink nicely, live a happy life. This is why we work hard. So never ever hesitate on spending on eating. Eat whatever you like. And what he said is true. You go and tell people, buy a big bulky Bhagavad Gita with 800 pages, 1000 pages, and the cost is just 200 rupees. They'll say, so expensive. So expensive. But they will easily order one Domino's pizza, much more than 250 rupees, which they are going to eat up in 5 minutes. For that, they will never think it's expensive, right? For that, they will never think it's expensive. I have seen people with meager salary who cannot afford, but still they go out to buy mobile phones worth 20,000, 30,000 rupees. Right? They cannot afford it, but still they buy. Because too much of attraction towards matter and very less attraction towards spiritual things. What is spiritual? Very less attraction. And because that attraction is poor, they don't even want to pay the price for the spiritual benefit or spiritual progress. They don't want to pay the price. But for material things, they are eager to pay any amount of price. Any amount of price. They don't think twice before buying stuff on Amazon or Flipkart, or going to a shopping mall. They don't think twice. But when it comes to spiritual thing and spiritual investment, so much of hesitation. So this is the problem that Vyasa saw. He saw it, that this is the problem. Now, because he is a compassionate person, he is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. He has compassion in his heart. When those who have compassion in the heart, they see the problems of others, they develop the desire to help them come out of the problem. That is the nature of compassion. Compassion will force that person to think, how can I help these people? How can I make their situation better? So he is doing that meditation. Read further, text number 17 and 18. Bhautikānāṁ ca bhāvānāṁ shakti hrasāṁ ca tatkritam Ashraddhana nisatva durmedhan harsitayushaha Durbhagangsha janan vikshya munir divyena chakshusha sarva varnashamanam yad datyogitam amogatrik. So the great sage was fully equipped in knowledge, could see through his transcendental vision the deterioration of everything material due to the influence of the age. He could also see the faithless people in general would be reduced in duration of life and would be impatient due to lack of goodness because of too much of rajagun and tamogun, more of passion and more of ignorance. Thus he contemplated for the welfare of men in all statuses and orders of men. So he is now doing the problem analysis. These are the people and this is the problem with them. What is the problem? Everything material deteriorates due to age of Kali, the influence of age of Kali. Now what happens? Please try to understand. Because everything deteriorates faster, then people have to work harder, struggle harder to maintain what they have. Right? Like something in the market. If the life of that thing is long, then you don't have to buy again the same thing. It will last for long. So you don't have to work hard. But because of the influence of Kali-yuga, even if you make sophisticated things, the durability is very less. And because of that, you have to work more and more again and again to maintain it. It is so true. Like you buy anything in the market and you use it, after some time it gets spoiled, it gets bad, it has this problem, that problem. Then you have to buy it again. Like you buy a good house, you paint it nicely. After 5 years, it's all dirty again. Then you paint it again. Everything has to be fixed up. Water, electricity, this, that. So maintenance becomes a big challenge. So for that, one has to work very hard again. So that's one fault. So what is wrong with that? The thing wrong with that is that if people will be so busy working hard in just maintaining, how will they get the time to do spiritual sadhana? Right? So people will have to work very hard just to maintain, because things will get deteriorated quickly. So this is one problem. Second problem is people are faithless. They don't have faith in scriptures, the words of the scriptures, the words of the acharyas. They always question, they always are doubtful. Right? They don't have faith. Third, reduced in duration of life. So even if, let's say, someone is interested in doing spiritual sadhana, but because of short lifespan, cannot achieve success. And fourth, they are very impatient due to lack of goodness. They want result now. Everything, 2 minutes. Everything, quickly. Everything. Because of lack of goodness. They are impatient in everything. In getting a job, in getting a degree, in getting a good wife or husband, in anything. They want quick results, very fast. They don't have patience. And because of lack of patience, what happens is that they are not able to survive on the path of pursuing Krishna consciousness or spiritual perfection, because in spiritual perfection one of the key things required is patience, dharya, utsahan, nishchayat, dharya, because this is something that takes time. Spiritual life is a time-taking process, because one has to go through the process of transformation, right? And that transformation happens gradually. So because they don't have patience, they quit very easily. They give up very easily. You would be surprised to know that the number of people who join ISKCON or who try out ISKCON, the spiritual practices in ISKCON, is quite huge. But the number of people who survive on spiritual path in ISKCON are very less. Very less. But those who try it out, that number is phenomenal. It is huge. But those who survive, that is very less because people don't have patience. They don't really understand that, this thing takes time. They quit. They very easily quit. They come, they go, they stay for some time, then they go. So Vyasa could see that these all things are lacking in people of Kali-yuga. So how will they make spiritual progress? How will they come to realize the goal of life? And how will they meet with that goal? Right? So here now let's see what Prabhupada writes in the Prabhupada. The unmanifested forces of time are so powerful that they reduce all matter to oblivion in due course. In Kali-yuga, the last millennium of a round of 4 millenniums, the power of all material objects deteriorates by the influence of time. Power of all material objects deteriorates means what? The fruits will not be nutritious enough. The vegetables will be not be nutritious enough. The medicines will not work. Things will lose their power. People will lose their, I'm sorry, no offenses to anyone, but people will lose the power to see properly. So most of the people will use glasses, right? It has become such a common thing now. You can see that small children having glasses. Why? Because the eyes are losing the power to see. The ears are losing the power to hear. The tongue is losing the power to taste properly. It's not happening. I actually was surprised because I never thought can be or should be or is actually. I thought people when they sit in a class, they hear at least everything and they understand everything. But then after giving so many classes, 1,000 classes, and actually evaluating people's understanding, I realized that though people sit and hear, they don't hear fully. They don't hear fully. They hear partially. They don't hear fully. And when people sit to read, they don't read fully. They read partially. And it's not that it's their fault. It's just that the senses are not strong. Senses are not alert enough, not focused enough. The senses have lost their power. So when they see, they don't see completely. When they hear, they don't hear completely. When they read, they don't read completely. So how will they understand completely? So this is the problem, another problem of people in Kali-yuga. Again, big problem. That we acquire information completely. In this age, the duration of the material body of the people in general is much reduced, and so is the memory. The action of matter has also not so much incentive. The land does not produce food grains in the same proportions as it did in other ages. The cow does not give as much milk as it used to give formerly. The production of vegetables and fruits is less than before. As such, all living beings, both men and animals, do not have sumptuous, nourishing food. Due to want of so many necessities of life, naturally the duration of life is reduced. The memory is short. Intelligence is meager. Mutual dealings are full of hypocrisy and so on. The great sage Vyasa could see this by his transcendental vision. As an astrologer can see the future fate of a man, or an astronomer can foretell the solar and lunar eclipses, those liberated souls who can see through the scripture can foretell the future of all mankind. They can see this due to their sharp vision of spiritual attainment. So it's a science. It's a science that people can do that because of their developed senses. And all such transcendentalists who are naturally devotees of the Lord are always eager to render welfare service to the people in general. They are the real friends of the people in general, not the so-called public leaders who are unable to see what is going to happen 5 minutes ahead. In this age, the people in general, as well as their so-called leaders, are all unlucky fellows, faithless in spiritual knowledge, and influenced by the age of Kali. They are always disturbed by various diseases. For example, in the present age, there are so many TB patients and TB hospitals. But formerly, this was not so because the time was not so unfavorable. We can say for present time, this would be like, for example, in the present times, there are so many cancer patients in cancer hospitals or COVID-19 patients in COVID-19 hospitals. The unfortunate men of this age are always reluctant to give a reception to the transcendentalists who are representatives of Srila Vyasa, and selfless workers always busy in planning something which may help everyone in all statuses and orders of life. The greatest philanthropists are those transcendentalists who represent the mission of Vyasa, Narada, Madhva, Chaitanya, Rupa, Saraswati. Saraswati here means Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati, etc. They are all one and the same. The personalities may be different, but the aim of the mission is one and the same, namely to deliver the fallen souls back to. So beautifully, Prabhupada, see the problems, then they are concerned about the welfare of people. So they always think, how can this problem be solved? Who can think like that? Only that person who doesn't have his or her own personal problems. Who can actually think about welfare of others? Only those people who themselves don't have any personal problem. Their mind does not give them trouble. Or even if they have personal problem, because of their big-heartedness, they overlook their personal problems to solve the problems of others. Such people can take out time to think, how can we help others? Only those who are ready to sacrifice can actually help others. And the great personalities, they do that. They are concerned about others. How can we help others? How can we benefit others? Because they have something which others don't have, and then they want to share that with others. Then I have this with me, and because of this, I am so satisfied. So I want to give to you also. They understand that this will solve their problem. Why did Srila Prabhupada have to go to West America and tell people chant Hare Krishna? Because he could see that though people are working so hard to be happy, they are not happy. But I have something which if people take up, then they can really become happy. If I give this to them and they will accept it, they will become so happy. So we have to know one thing, that there can be different reasons why people come forward to help others. But only those who have developed pure love for Krishna and they have developed compassion which takes birth from such pure love for Krishna can really help others. Because they have this compassion, overwhelming with compassion. Their heart is overwhelming, that we cannot see the suffering of others and we want to reach out to them and help them. And such a person can become a preacher. Preacher is not someone who is just interested in spreading the dogma. I belong to this religion and this is the best religion and that's why you should take it. Preacher is someone who personally has become transformed by the practice of genuine spiritual practices, is experiencing the joy, and when he looks at others who are suffering, then he feels concern for them, he or she, and that's why they want to reach out to people to give them the solution. First of all, they understand the science of the solution, they have practiced the solution, they have seen the benefits in their life, and out of that confidence, they then reach out to people with compassion to share. Vyasadeva is just going to do that now. He's going to do that. He has done that. He has done for that cause, and he's going to further do for that cause. So then what happens next? Let's read the next verse. He has analyzed the problem. So, Chaturhotram karma shuddham prajanam vikshya vaidikam vedadadyagya santatyai vedam ekam chaturvidam. So Vyasadeva is thinking all of this. This is going on in his mind. These are the problems of the people of Kali-yuga. These are their faults. These are their weaknesses. These are the drawbacks. And he, as an incarnation of the Lord, is heart full of compassion. He wants to help them. So for helping them, what he has already done, that's what is going to be described now. He saw that the sacrifices mentioned in Vedas were means by which the people's occupations could. One thing, that people of Kali-yuga who are going to come in the future, they would be least interested in three things. And what are those three things? Jnana, yoga, and bhakti. They would not be interested in these three things. Spiritual knowledge, practice of yoga, and bhakti. They would be interested only in one thing. And what is that? What is left? Who will tell? What is left? According to Bhagavad Gita, what is left? If these three things are not their subject matters of interest, then what is left according to Bhagavad Gita?
Fruitive action.
Yes, karma. So people of Kali-yuga would be only interested in karma. They would be least interested in jnana, yoga, and bhakti. And the problem is that if someone just engages in karma, there's no spiritual progress. A person who is a karmi is not a transcendentalist. To be called transcendentalist, one has to be either a jnani or a yogi or a bhakta. That's how the spiritual life begins. That's how entrance into transcendental realm begins, either by the process of jnana or yoga or bhakti. But people are only interested in karma. Just work, earn money, maintain your life, maintain your family, and be happy. That's all. Right? That's what we see in this world, isn't it? That's what is happening. That's what the whole education is about. So Vyasa could see that people are only interested in karma. So how will they get purified? He thought, by karma they will get purified. So what should be done? So the solution which he thought would work is, let them engage in Vedic sacrifices. Let them do Vedic sacrifice. Okay. He saw the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which the people's occupations could be purified. So and in sacrifice, what you use? You use your hard-earned money or whatever resources you have. And in that way, you purify your occupation. And to simplify the process of sacrifice, he divided the one Veda into 4. So the process of sacrifice is given in the Vedas, right? And there was one Veda, which was received by oral reception. But then he divided that into 4 in order to expand them among men. Why he divided into 4? Because he saw that people in Kali-yuga are so dull that they cannot, all of them cannot completely understand the entire Vedas. So make it simple for them. Divide it into 4 sections and give one section to one person. Give next section to another person. Give the next section to another person. Give next section to another person. Because one person is not there who can understand the whole or memorize the whole. So divide into 4 and make 4 different teachers. So in a sacrifice, in a Vedic sacrifice, generally 4 priests are needed. 4 people must be there. One should know one section of the Vedas. another should know another section, another should know another section, and the fourth one should know all the four Vedas, right? One section is of the Rig Veda. Rig Veda has the knowledge of how to offer prayers, how to offer oblations or ahuti into the sacrifice. So there would be one priest for that, main priest. Then there would be another priest who has knowledge of the Sama Veda. So the person who knows Sama Veda is the one who is the corrector. If anything goes wrong, he is going to object. Okay, this is not correctly chanted. This is not the article to be used. This is not the proper time, like that. Then the third person is knowledge who knows Yajur Veda. He is supposed to make all the preparations for the sacrifice. Get the coconuts, get the bananas, make the altar, make all the preparations. And the finally is the one who knows the Atharva Veda, which means he is the supervisor. Everyone is working, the priests are chanting, everything is happening properly, supervisor, knows everything. So Vyasadeva thought one person is supposed to know all, but in Kali-yuga, this won't happen. So let me divide it into 4 sections and make one teacher for each of the sections. Making it simple, basically. Making it easy. So he did that. Now, when you speak of Vedas, you should know one thing. All the Vedic scriptures, they are not written in thematic manner. Thematic manner. I hope you are able to understand. Like thematic manner means, like for example, when we study Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita has many different subjects, and the knowledge of these subjects are spread across Bhagavad Gita. It's not that, chapter 1 is talking about one particular thing, then you go to chapter 2, it's talking about one particular thing, then you go to chapter 3, it's talking about one particular thing. That way of presentation is called thematic presentation. That you have one type of knowledge, you club it all together in one chapter. Then you go to next chapter, it will have a different type of knowledge. But the Vedic scriptures are not presented in this manner. In Vedic scriptures, the knowledge is spread across in different chapters, different sections, different departments of knowledge would be in different sections. So in that one Veda, there were mantras which were scattered around. Rig Veda is coming here also, Rig Veda is coming there also, there also, there also, there also. Then Sam Veda is also coming here, there, everywhere. Yajur Veda is also coming here, there, everywhere. What did Vyasadeva do? He put them, compiled them on the basis of themes. Okay, this is Rig, this is Yajur, this is Sam, this is that. Right? To make it simpler for people to understand. He did that. Let's read the purport. Formerly, there was only the Veda of the name Yajur, and the 4 divisions of sacrifice were there specifically mentioned. But to make them more easily performable, the Veda was divided into 4 divisions of sacrifice just to purify the occupational service of the 4 orders. Above the 4 Vedas, namely Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva, there are the Puranas, the Mahabharata, Samhitas, etc., which are known as the 5th Veda. Sri Vyasadeva and his many disciples were all historical personalities, and they were very kind and sympathetic toward the fallen souls of this age of Kali. As such, the Puranas and Mahabharata were made from related historical facts which explain the teaching of the 4 Vedas. There is no point in doubting the authority of the Puranas and Mahabharata as parts and parcels of the Vedas. In the Chandogya Upanishad, the Puranas and Mahabharata, generally known as histories, are mentioned as the 5th Veda. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, that is the way of ascertaining the respective values of the revealed scriptures. So you see, Vyasadeva saw the problem and Vyasadeva worked towards the solution also. He divided the Vedas into 4 parts. Because the Vedas, they give the knowledge of Vedic sacrifice, and he wanted to give that knowledge to people in Kali-yuga. He saw that as the solution. What happened next? Read further. The next verse. Rig Yajuhu Sama Tharvat. Rig Yajuhu Sama Tharvakhya Vedas Chatvara Uttritaha Itihasa Puranam Cha Panchamo Veda Uchyate. the four divisions of the original sources of knowledge, the Vedas, were made separately, but the historical facts and authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas are called the fifth Veda. So he made the four Vedas, and then he wrote down the fifth one, which is the Puranas and Itihasas, right? Like Mahabharata, the 18 different Puranas, he wrote down all of them. Why did he write all this? The reason was, he also understood that the Vedas will be understandable to only a certain class of people because of the complications, in that subject itself. It's written in a particular type of Sanskrit. For that, a person has to be very learned in Sanskrit. Then, because the Sanskrit verses can be interpreted in many ways, so one has to also have proper intelligence to interpret them nicely and correctly. And that's why people may not all will be able to understand. What to speak of Sanskrit? Even people, they misunderstand simple English statements or simple Hindi statements, right? The person who is speaking wants to speak something and people take away a different message. If you are not sure about this, just go and speak to a group of people, speak few lines, and then you ask them, can you tell what did I say? You will surely hear from most of them, either they'll subtract something from it or they'll add something to it. They'll subtract something from it or they'll add something to it. From their own mind, they'll add something extra or they'll remove something. That's with normal language. I'm talking English or Hindi. So what to speak of Sanskrit? How will people understand? So Vyasa thought that people will not understand this complicated code language. So what should I do? I should write stories for them. But not stories which are imaginative stories. Not that, there was a man and then that man had a son and then this happened and that happened. Generally, you find Christians, they also tell a lot of stories in their preaching, but they make all these stories. It's just a product of their intelligence or their imagination. They just make stories. They just make stories. Or even nowadays, Buddhism, the Zen Buddhism is very popular. They also tell a lot of stories about Zen monks and meditators. They also make up stories. Oh, there was a Zen monk like this, and then this happened. So they imagine and they tell. But Vyasa did not want to do that. He wanted to tell people stories which are historical facts, historical narrations, which are true stories from the life of legendary people, great people. Why he wanted to do that? Because these people, they lived their life, or they were good, either they were good examples, or they were bad examples of following or not following the Vedic instructions. So, when you tell the story of a person, you describe about the life and activities of a person, then indirectly you are telling people what you should be doing and what you should not be doing. Simple. Isn't it? What you should be doing, what you should not be doing. And people then understand it easily. People understand it easily. So the Puranas, the stories are compiled in this way, that there is a principle in the Veda, that principle in the Veda may not be understood by people. So Vyasa is giving examples of that in the Puranas, so that people can easily understand. Right? He's giving examples in the Puranas. He wrote down those stories for that purpose. Next verse. Tatragaveda dhara pailaha samago jaimini kavihi vaishampayana eveko nishnato yajsham. After the Vedas were divided into four, first Veda was divided into 4 parts. First Veda was divided into 4 parts. Second Veda was divided into 4 parts. Third Veda was divided into 4 parts. Fourth Veda was divided into 4 parts. Fifth Veda was divided into 4 parts. Sixth Veda was divided into 4 parts. Seventh Veda was divided into 4 parts. Eighth Veda was divided into 4 parts. Nine Veda was divided into 4 parts. 10th Veda was divided into 4 parts. 11th Veda was divided into 4 parts. 12th Veda was divided into 4 parts. 13th Veda was divided into 4 parts. 14th Veda was divided into 4 parts. 15th Veda was divided into 4 parts. 16th Veda was divided into 4 parts. 17th Veda was divided into 4 parts. 18th Veda was divided into 4 parts. 19th Veda was divided into 4 parts. 20th Veda was Paila Rishi became the professor of the Rig Veda. Jaimini, the professor of the Samveda. And Vaishampayana alone became glorified by the Yajurveda. So he made different head teachers for the different sections of the Vedas. The different Vedas were entrusted to different learned scholars for development in various ways. Next verse. Atharvangari sang asit sumantur daruno munihi itihasa purananam itamero maharshanaha. So then he says, the Sumanta Muni Angira. Angira is also known as Sumanta Muni. It's another name of Angira Rishi. So the Sumanta Muni Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was interested with the Atharva Veda. And my father, Roma Harshana, was interested with the Puranas and historical records. So Sutta Goswami's father was Roma Harshana Sutta. And he was given in charge of the fifth Veda, the Puranas and the historical records. He was made in charge of that. Right? But in the Shrutis mantras also it is stated that Angira Muni, who strictly followed the rigid principles of the Atharva Veda, was the leader of the followers of the Atharva Veda. Next verse. Ta eta rishayo vedam swang swang vyasyan nane kada shishye pra shishye shishye vedasta sakhi no bhavan. All these learned scholars in their turn rendered their interested Vedas unto their many disciples, grand disciples and great grand disciples. And thus the respective branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being. The original source of knowledge is the Vedas. There are no branches of knowledge, either material or spiritual, right? Or mundane or transcendental, which do not belong to the original text of the Vedas. They have simply been developed into different branches. They were originally rendered by great, respectable, and learned professors. In other words, the Vedic knowledge broken into different branches by different disciplic successions has been distributed all over the world. No one therefore can claim independent knowledge beyond the Vedas. This is what happens, that basically a branch of knowledge is taught in a Gurukul, in an ashram, and then the students of that branch, they further study that subject matter, try to teach that subject matter as per the time, place and circumstance, making it more relevant for the people. And in that way, that knowledge expands. Like you can understand it this way. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote some books, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote some books, then Prabhupada translated those books into English. He added his own personal understanding, his realization. Then he told his disciples, then you should also study, you should also do the research, you should also write more books, make the same thing available to people in general in different languages with your realizations added to it. So in this way, a particular branch gets expanded. A particular branch of knowledge gets expanded. When the students of that knowledge, they study it and then they explain it further. So this was happening, the knowledge was given to these personalities and then the students were expanding. Next verse. Ta eva veda durmedhe dharyante purusher yatha evam chakara bhagavan Vyasaha kripanavatsalaha. Thus the great sage Vyasadeva, who was very kind to the ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men. So it's mentioned here, Kripanaha Vatsala. Kripanaha Vatsala. Kripana means what? Miserly person. Miserly in what sense? Miserly in using one's intelligence. So such people would not understand the Vedas. Vyasadeva wanted to help them also, benefit them also. So he wrote down the next book, which will be explained in the next verse. The Veda is one, and the reasons for its division in many parts are explained herewith. The seed of all knowledge or the Veda is not a subject matter which can be easily understood by any ordinary man. How can people understand Vedas? Veda Vakya is basically the sound or the words which are coming from the Supreme Lord. Vedas are produced from the breath of Lord Vishnu. When the four Kumaras, they went to Vaikuntha and they were stopped at the entrance by the gatekeepers, Jay and Vijay. So the four Kumaras, they cursed the gatekeepers. You have envy in your heart, so you are not supposed to live here. Go to the material world. You are a perfect candidate for that place. So at that moment, Lord Vishnu came out with Lakshmi and Garuda, and then he spoke some words to the Kumaras. Kumaras at that time, they confessed to the Supreme Lord. We cannot understand the real meaning of what you are trying to say. So some days ago, I was giving a class in the temple. I was telling the devotees there, four Kumaras are liberated souls. They are Brahma Gyanis, Brahma Bhuta people. And they are saying, we cannot understand the words of the Supreme Lord. What does he want to say? Are you trying to chastise us or are you trying to glorify us? This is the situation of four Kumaras, the liberated souls. They cannot understand the statements of the Supreme Lord. So how can degraded people of Kali-yuga understand Vedic scriptures? How can people of Kali-yuga understand Vedic scriptures? It's not possible. So what says here, Vedas cannot be understood by any ordinary man. There is a stricture that no one should try to learn the Vedas who is not a qualified Brahmana. So again, then people would say this is not good because we are trying to create demarcations. You are doing, partiality. Just telling one class of people is qualified. Then Prabhupada writes here, this stricture has been wrongly interpreted in so many ways. A class of men who claim Brahminical qualifications simply by their birthright in the family of a Brahmana claim that the study of the Vedas is a monopoly of the Brahmana caste only. So this is one kind of problem, that people who are born in Brahmana family, they think we are qualified to study the Vedas just because we are born in Brahmana family. And then there is another class of people, another section of the people will take this as an injustice to men of or members of other castes who do not happen to take birth in a Brahmana family. They will say, why should Brahmanas only get this special privilege? We also want to be, the students of the Vedas. And Baba says, both of them are misguided. Both of them are wrong. But both of them are wrong. The Vedas are subjects which had to be explained even to Brahmaji by the Supreme Lord. So he's saying, you see, try to understand. Vedas is a subject which is even Brahmaji had to go through, proper schooling in that subject. He also had to attend classes by Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna to understand the Vedas. Right? Even a person who is Brahma, Brahma is one whose body is made up of buddhi, intelligence. If we have intelligence, his body is made up of intelligence. Two different things. In our whole system, intelligence is a small part, and his whole body is made up of intelligence. And still, that person had to take tuition in the subject of Veda from the Supreme Lord. He had to learn. So the point Srila is trying to make is that therefore the subject matter is understood by persons with exceptional qualities of goodness. When you say a Brahmana should study the Vedas, what is indirectly being told is a person who is situated in Brahman or pure goodness or exceptional level of goodness can understand the Vedas. So that person should then study the Vedas. Because if that person studies the Vedas, that person will understand properly and explain to others. And if those who are not qualified, they will study the Vedas, then they'll misunderstand and they'll teach the wrong thing. And which is happening in Kali-yuga, very nicely it is going on. Anyone just reads the different sections of the Vedas, go to internet, everything is freely available, right? You study any Upanishad, any Purana, anything, and then you just post articles on internet about it. And explain it as per one's own opinion. Whether it is Amish, whether it is Dev Roy Patnaik, whether it is Vivek Dev Roy or whatever. I think Devdutt Patnaik, whatever. You just read some Vedas or some books of stories, and you have some nice imagination. You write it in a creative manner, and you tell, this is my understanding of Ramayana. This is my understanding of Mahabharata. This is my understanding of Ravana. So that's what will happen. Wrong people will use it wrongly, misinterpret it. Gradually, the mode of goodness declined during the Treta and Dwapar Yugas, and the general mass of people became corrupt. In the present age, the mode of goodness is almost nil. And so for the general mass of people, the kind-hearted, powerful sage Srila Vyasa divided the Vedas in various ways so that they may be practically followed by less intelligent persons in the modes of passion and ignorance. It is explained in the next shloka as follows. Now, what I was trying to explain, I'll give you an example. How people do such big blunders when they are not qualified to study the Vedas and they study. In Mahabharata, we know this, that Kunti, she had a boon. She could invoke any demigod and get a child from him, right? We know this, isn't it? So when Pandu was, living in the forest with Kunti and Madri, Pandu had received a curse from a sage that as soon as he physically unites with any of his wife, he will die. He cannot produce child in any of the wife's womb. He would die. So Pandu was concerned, how will this lineage continue? Right? So Kunti, one day she told Pandu that I have this power. I can chant the mantras and invoke any demigod and get a child from that demigod. So Pandu said, Kunti, why did you not tell this to me before? I mean, I was so much concerned that how will our dynasty continue? You should have told this to me before. And Kunti said, how could I tell this to you? I mean, I was feeling very shy and embarrassed to reveal this thing to you. But now looking at your concern, I told this to you. And I was also thinking that you may ask me to use this power. And I don't want to do that. So Pandu said, but for the emergency situation, you will have to do that. So Kunti said, okay. So Pandu said, I want the first child. And he should be son of Dharmaraj. First child, he should be the son of Dharmaraj. And Kunti said, okay, fine. So Kunti invoked Dharmaraj, and in that way, she got the child. Of course, we should understand one thing. When the demigods, they give birth to a child in the womb of a mother who is from earth, they don't physically unite the way man and woman unite in this world. Their way of conceiving the child in the womb of a woman is very different. They do it with their, subtle powers. So Dharmaraj put the child in the womb of Kunti. So one lady, when she studied Mahabharata, because of her Kali-yuga mentality and Kali-yuga buddhi, she thought, how can demigods give child to humans? And she did not even have any faith in the existence of demigods. So what was her interpretation to this whole thing? What did she say? She said, in my understanding, Kunti got the child from Dharmaraj. So who is that Dharmaraj? So she says, Vidura, who is also an incarnation of Dharmaraj, he united with Kunti and made her pregnant and gave her the child. Look at the blunder, what she's doing. Who is Vidura? He is like a father to Kunti, right? And she's saying that Vidura united with Kunti and gave her the child. So people, when they read the books, They will say, this is very logical, very, very logical. This is very interesting, logical. And in this way, people are just spreading ignorance, because they cannot understand the Vedas properly. They have not heard it in parampara. They read it and then they just preach their ignorance. Instead of preaching knowledge, they are preaching their ignorance to people. And that is so dangerous. So this is going on. This is what is happening. And as they could see that people won't be actually able to take the real meaning, the real purport of the Vedas. They would just take something else from them. So what did he do then for people in general? How can they be benefited? So he compiled this fifth literature, which Prabhupada has already mentioned before, which is verse number 25. Karma Shreyas, sorry, Sri Shudra Dvija Bandhunam Traina Shruti Gochara Karma Shreyasi Mudanam Shreya Evam Bhavet Iha Iti Bharatam Akhyanam Kripaya Munina Kritam. So he says that for out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus he compiled a great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born, for women, for Shudras, and Dvijabandhus. Dvijabandhus are those who are not qualified Brahmanas, not qualified Kshatriyas, not qualified Vaishyas. Why? Because they are either born of Varna Sankara or they have not gone through the proper sanskars. So they don't fall in one particular category. They are, in modern terms, you can say they are hybrid people. Hybrid. They are not of one type. Mixed varna. Brahmana getting married to Kshatriya, Kshatriya getting married to Vaishya, Vaishya getting married to Shudra. Or mixed varna. Few days ago, I got a video of Sadhguru. I was watching that. So, ironically, the title of that video was Sadhguru is against intercaste marriage. And if you watch that video, then actually he says that I am against intercaste marriage because I don't believe in caste. So I don't believe in intercaste. In that way, I am against intercaste marriage. And he says that I did not check the caste of my wife when I got married. So just because he did something, that doesn't become an example for others to follow. This is not Krishna, that I did something, so you should all follow that. Right? So he's giving his own example. I just met one girl and I liked her, so I got married. I never asked her about her caste. And then he gives some stupid explanation that in the past you had to follow caste system for marriage within your caste because a caste meant a particular occupation. So if you are a farmer, you're born in a farmer's family. The only thing that you know is how to do agriculture. You don't know how to rule the kingdom. So you cannot become the wife or husband of that particular caste, in that particular caste. So it's all on the basis of occupation, on the basis of skills. If you have the skills of a Brahmana, you get married to a Brahmana. If you have the skills of a Kshatriya, you get married to a Kshatriya. So his point is that in the modern times, there is no such thing. A doctor's son can become an engineer's son can become a lawyer and stuff like that. So you can do marriage with anyone and everyone. But then his logic is again fallacious. Why? Because if you say in the past, the marriage was only on the basis of occupation, then in the present also you should make the same law that engineer should marry to an engineer only. Or a doctor should marry to a doctor only. You know, if that is his logic, that in the past it was all on the basis of occupation, then it should be like that in the present also then. That a lawyer should marry to a lawyer only. But that's not the point, isn't it? So when people say, what's wrong with intercaste? If you look at the body, there's nothing wrong with intercaste. But if you look at spiritual side, then there's a lot of problem in intercaste. But in Kali-yuga, it's not so much a problem. You know,
Is it blank? Hare Krishna?
I think so Prabhuji disconnected. Some problem. Internet.
Okay. Oh,
He may rejoin.
oh.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, there was an internet disconnection. So I was talking to you about this issue, this situation of intercaste marriage. In Kali-yuga, yes, it is true that it may not be so problematic. Of course, if you look at the finer details, it is going to be problematic. But in Kali-yuga, it is mentioned that everyone is born as a Shudra. Kali-yuga, Kalo Shudra Sambhava means they don't have any spiritual training, no spiritual upbringing. So that's why from spiritual perspective, it doesn't really always matter so much because both are of same type, no spiritual training. But in case that the man and the woman, they have gone through different levels of spiritual training and different levels of spiritual purification, then marriage of those two people will not really be successful in terms of spiritual development. Now, in the caste system, what happened, we'll not use the word caste system. In Varnashram system, what happened was, when people belong to a particular Kula, dynasty or particular Jati, Varna, they went to a particular degree of training. And when they would get married to another person who had received similar type of training, then they would be on the same page. And making spiritual progress would become very easier for them. Because they would come from the same level of understanding, would have same type of qualities, same goals, and it would become very easy for them to live together and support one another in spiritual development. So that's why when it comes to sense gratification, then there's no need to check someone's caste and someone's family, someone's lineage and gotra. No problem. Just like animals, they don't look at one another's caste. They just get they just produce child from any other animal. It just has to be opposite sex. So it comes to material life, there's no need to look at the background of the man and the woman. But when it comes to spiritual life, then it matters a lot because there's a training behind that. So Vyasdev could see that these kinds of people, mixed Varna people called Dvija Bandhus, or people who are born with the nature of Shudra, or living entities who are born in woman body, they would not be able to understand the Vedic scriptures, the 4 Vedas. They'll not be able to understand. So for them, what should be done? He compiled a book called Mahabharata. Now you see, when such information is given in the scriptures, those who are not sufficiently developed in their intelligence will either use this information to look down at the 3 classes of people mentioned in this verse. They will look down at women and then they'll call women as less intelligent, in that way try to disrespect them, or try to show that their position is better, they are superior, stuff like that. Or another class of people would consider this as an injustice, that why God had to make these classes of people less intelligent or something like that. So the information given in the scriptures here is not for this reason that we should compare the classes and that's how we should judge them, that this is superior, this is inferior. This information is given here to tell us that the door to liberation is approachable for everyone. Right? The door to Vaikuntha is open for everyone. Just that some people will reach that door through the path of studying the Vedas, and some people can reach that door through the path of studying the Puranas and Itihasas. That's why this knowledge is given here. This knowledge is given here to show us the compassion of Vyasa, not to tell us that Brahmanas are better and women and Shudras are lower. So then the Brahmanas should become proud of this, and the women and Shudras, they should develop an inferior complex. No. The point is that because those people have a particular intellectual ability, for them this is the path that you study the Vedas, you do contemplation on that knowledge, and in that way you purify your existence and you go to spiritual world. But then there is a class of people who cannot do that. So Vyasa then gives them an alternative option. Okay, you do this. At the end, both will reach to the same goal. Right? Both will get the same benefit. So instead of fighting over why this is less intelligent and why that is more intelligent, look at the bright side. Look at the bright side, that this is the option for us and this is the option for them. And because of a particular option, one does not become better than the other, because the end result is the same. The end result is the same. It's just like a teacher going to a classroom and then solving a very complicated mathematics problem. And some of the students, they're just looking at the board and then they are fully lost. And the teacher can see that these people are not getting anything, A, B, C to Z, nothing they understand. They are not able to make, any sense of it. So then they'll ask those students, are you not understanding? They say, no, sir, we're not understanding. So then the teacher will say, okay, I'll teach you the same thing in a different manner, making it easier for you. Right? So when the teacher does that, instead of these students complaining, why, but we want to learn the first way only, why that they can understand, why we cannot understand. The point is you need to understand in some way or other. The teacher is going to teach you the second way, learn the second way. And after you learn the second way, you are at the same level as the one who learned the first way. So for those who could not understand the Vedas, they thought, let me compile these books, that they can also come to that same level of understanding, but by a different means, And in Kali-yuga, to be honestly speaking, all the men, they are like women. So in Kali-yuga, no one is better. Because here Vyasa puts three people in one category. Whether you're a woman, whether you're Shudra, or whether you're Dvijbandhu. So in Kali-yuga, most of the men, almost all of them, they are either Shudras or they are Dvijbandhus. You will find very few pure Brahmanas, pure Kshatriyas, and pure Vaishyas. They're all on the same page. So that's why men need not be so proud that we are men. Right? Need not be so proud that we are more intelligent. We are all in the same category. Same category. And as for their benefit, he did this compilation, which is called the Mahabharata. Now let me read that purport, very nice purport by Srila Prabhupada. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled a great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. The friends of the twice born families are those who are born in the families of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or the spiritually cultured families, but who themselves are not equal to their forefathers. The purificatory activities, such descendants are not recognized as such for want of purificatory achievements. The purificatory activities begin even before the birth of a child, and the seed-giving reformatory process is called Garbhadan Sanskar. So this is how a human being is born. Without Garbhadan Sanskar, only a demon or an animal is born, actually. If a human being has to take birth, then there has to be Garbhadan Sanskar. One who has not undergone such Garbhadan Sanskar or spiritual family planning is to be accepted as being of an actual is not accepted as being of an actual twice born family. The Garbhadan Sanskar is followed by some more sanskars, right? The Garbhadan Sanskar is followed by, just a second, this screen has to be minimized. Or the Garbhadan Sanskar is followed by other purificatory processes, out of which the sacred thread ceremony is one. This is performed at the time of spiritual initiation. After this particular sanskar, one is rightly called twice born. One birth is calculated during the seed giving sanskar, and the second birth is calculated at the time of spiritual initiation. One who has been able to undergo such important sanskars can be called a bona fide twice born. Sanskars are so important. Sanskar means process of reformation. One has to go through process of reformation to become a human being, and one has to go through process of reformation to become an actual Vaishya, Kshatriya or Brahmana, and one has to certainly go through the process of reformation to become a Vaishnava. Becoming spiritually developed means one has to go through the process of reformation. If the father and the mother do not undertake the process of spiritual family planning and simply beget children out of passion only, their children are called Dvija Bandhus. These Dvija Bandhus are certainly not as intelligent as the children of the regular twice-born families. The Dvija Bandhus are classified with the Shudras and the women class, who by nature are less intelligent. The Shudras and the women class do not have to undergo any sanskars save and except the marriage ceremony of marriage. And interestingly, people in the present times, they don't even do the marriage properly. At least one sanskar they should do myself. The less intelligent classes of men, namely women, Shudras, and unqualified sons of the higher caste, are devoid of necessary qualifications to understand the purpose of the transcendental Vedas. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. The purpose of the Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore within this Mahabharata, the summary Veda of Bhagavad Gita is placed. The less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy. That's why if anyone gives a philosophical class, people go to sleep. And therefore, the philosophy of the Vedas in the form of the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord Shri Krishna. Vyasadeva and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of this age. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is the subject matter for study by the spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. It is a great science, and the great professor is the Lord himself in the form of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Right? So many important points again in this particular purport. First, Prabhupada mentions about Garbhadan Sanskar. It is so important that people, those who are intelligent, they should understand this science and must do it if they want a good child, a decent child. Garbhadan Sanskar, very much important. Recently, I was in a small town in Maharashtra. One of my friends, devotee friends, who is in mid-30s, he had asked me to come there and do some programs for the teachers. So he was telling me for his second daughter, he did Garbhadan Sanskar. Very nice thing, very nice thing. So the whole family is amazed by the spiritual interest of this child. She is not even 1 year old now, but as soon as they do Mangala Aarati in their house and Tulsi Aarati begins, this child, whether she is sleeping, she is playing, she's in the kitchen, she'll just run into the temple hall, and without anyone telling, she'll start doing protection of Tulsi Maharani. She's not even 1 year old. She does it by herself. Because he followed Garbhadan Sanskar, he's able to see that this child is so much spiritually inclined, naturally. So this is a science, Garbhadan, how to invite good souls into the family. That's called family planning. Not that, we earn 20 lakhs, so we can afford one child. We earn 50 lakhs, we can afford 2 children. We earn 1 crore, so we can manage 3 children. This is not family planning. What is this family planning? On the basis of how much we earn and how much we have to spend on it. What school to send, what kind of baby diapers we are going to put to that child, which protein supplement we are going to feed to the child. All this kind of planning. Real planning is what kind of person is coming into the family. Are we getting a demon or we are getting a devotee? Who is coming? That's the real planning. So there has to be proper spiritual planning, and people should know about it, and people should tell others about it. That what is the point in getting a nonsense person into your family and later on then breaking your head into making that a good child, sending to the school and sending tuition and doing this and doing that, and that person still remains the same. But if one is getting a good child, then working on that child will be so easy. So Garbhadan is so important. People should understand the need of it. Otherwise, as Prabhupada mentioned, only animals will take birth, nothing more. Looking like humans, but in qualities, only like animals. Because parents, they will produce with the consciousness of an animal. So an animal will be born. So Garbhadan is so important, so much important. And everything should be done properly. Nowadays, I was talking to one devotee and they were telling me that even marriage, which is such a sacred thing. I have seen marriages, it used to be a month-long event or a 2 or 3 week long event. So many rituals to do, visiting the temple, purifying yourself, purifying the house, so many functions at the house, so many pujas, and going to different holy places. But nowadays, what has marriage become? Marriage has only become, they were telling me, Sangeet. That's all happens in marriage. People dancing on Bollywood song. That's the whole marriage ceremony. If it is a 5-hour program, then out of that 2 or 3 hours will just go in this, that ladies will prepare on different songs and they'll come on the stage and they'll dance. This has become marriage, nothing else. No puja, no tapasya, nothing. Just go to one place. On that day, you throw a party and you do this dance and tamasha, spend lakhs and lakhs of rupees, and they call it marriage. Okay. So people should know that sanskar means it is for purification. Vivaha is for purification. It should be done in that spirit, not in the spirit of gratification. It's for purification. It is a sanskar. Doing tapasya, understanding the seriousness of that responsibility, that relationship. But it's lost. People are not at all interested in it because they don't know about it. And finally, Prabhupada mentioned about the qualification needed to understand spiritual science. Bhagavad Gita is considered as basic spiritual knowledge. And then Srimad-bhagavatam is the advanced study of spiritual knowledge. So for basic people, find it so difficult to understand. And how will they understand the advanced devotional life, spiritual life, what it is, what it really means to be a Vaishnava, what it means to be Krishna conscious, what it means to do deity worship, what it means to chant the holy name, what it means to go to the holy dham. Understanding the depth of that, the seriousness of that. So it's not possible for people in general, but in Kali-yuga, people can do that by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the mercy of pure devotees of Krishna. If people in this movement, they think that they understand the Vedas because of their intelligence, their academic background, their scholarship, or they are very qualified, then they are the greatest fools. If they are in this movement and they think like that. If anyone in this movement, whether in the body of a man or woman, born in a Brahmana family or a Shudra family, educated or illiterate, they understand the scriptures, then they only understand it because of the causeless mercy of the Guru Parampara. The causeless mercy of the Vaishnavas, pure devotees of Krishna. Otherwise, Kali-yuga people, they don't have the brain to understand the Vedas. They don't have the brain, required skill to understand. So, it is a big controversy in ISKCON sometimes. Many, even devotee women, they become very disturbed when they read the statements of Prabhupada that women are less intelligent. Many devotee women, even Prabhupada disciples, they become angry when they hear something like that. Because they think we are so intelligent, we understand the Vedas, we are giving classes on these books. So how can you say women are not so intelligent? But they forget that if they have the qualification to speak on Srimad-bhagavatam, or anyone has the qualification to speak on Srimad-bhagavatam, anyone is able to read the books of Prabhupada and understand. It's not because they are intelligent. It's not because of that. It's not because they are PhDs or they are masters, they are doctorates, they are graduates, they are academicians, or they are very learned people. It's only because of the mercy of the Guru Parampara. The credit goes to the Parampara. The credit goes to the Acharyas, not on our material background, not on our capability. It's their mercy that we understand something of the scriptures and we can speak on the scriptures. Not that I was born in a Brahmana family, so I can understand the Vedas. Or I was born in a cultured family, so I can understand the Vedas. Or I'm an intellectual genius, so I can understand the Vedas. No, these are not the qualifications. This is not the way one can understand. And if you are understanding to some extent, it's only because of the causeless mercy that has to be digested properly, that has to be understood properly. So Prabhupada mentioned in the last line that, what did he say? In the last line, he said that, and persons who are empowered by him, empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, can initiate others in the transcendental love and service of the Lord. It's the empowerment that comes from the Lord that makes people like us qualified to some extent to appreciate what is Bhagavad Gita, to appreciate Srimad-bhagavatam, to appreciate the books written by Prabhupada and understand. That is the sar. And one last thing, Vyasa, because he has compassion, he is doing certain things which can be considered innovative and creative. Those people who are compassionate in heart, they are always eager to find newer and newer ways of sharing Krishna consciousness in their lives. That is the difference between what last time we discussed, right? A Brahmana and a Parivrajaka Acharya. This is the difference. Those who are only theoretically learned, they are very orthodox in their preaching style. They think that people can be made into devotees only in this way. But those who are Parivrajaka Acharyas, because they have compassion in their heart, they are always eager to devise newer and newer ways of how to reach out to people and give them Krishna consciousness. It's not that they will compromise, but they will find newer and newer ways. And that comes in their heart because of their compassion. That intelligence comes to them because of their compassion. They feel for people, and that's why they're able to devise new ways to reach out to people and share Krishna consciousness with them. But those people who don't have that compassion sufficient in their heart, they would be satisfied only in doing, some tantras and mantras and some pujas, and in that way try to share Krishna consciousness with others. But they won't be successful, because to be able to preach effectively, you have to first of all understand what is the problem that the other person going through. What is the difficulty that the other person is going through? What are the challenges? What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? What is their culture? What they like? What they don't like? And then you have to give them Krishna consciousness in a way. It appeals to them. It makes sense to them. It attracts them. So Vyasa, because he is an incarnation of the Lord, he is the perfect person. He knows how to make things, how to devise means that people of Kali-yuga will take to Krishna consciousness. For that, he wrote the book Mahabharata, which is such an interesting story. I mean, there cannot be any story like Mahabharata. So interesting. Thousands of dramas have been written by people, but there cannot be such an interesting drama like Mahabharata. And such a big drama with so many characters, and each character is an amazing person in himself or herself. To take Mahabharata, it doesn't have just one hero. It has a bunch of heroes, right? All of them are heroes and heroines in their own ways. It's full of turns, ups and downs. Everything is there, and at the same time, that book, if anyone reads that book, that person will become closer in some way to spiritual, culture. Will understand what is dharma. Will understand what are good values. Will understand about Krishna's devotees. Will understand Krishna to some extent. So such a wonderful contribution of Vyasa. Okay, we'll stop here. Any questions? Do not get time to move ahead. Sachdev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much once again for a wonderful class. A lot of instructions and injunctions taught by you. And finally ending with the mercy of Acharyas who give us little intelligence and little qualification. Question about 2-3 questions, Prabhuji. I'll just read out. The great sage Vyasdev saw anomalies in the duties of the millennium. Udhar tak theek hai. Then it says this happens on the earth in different ages. So now 2 questions here. On the earth, that means does it happen only on the earth planet, or does it happen in other planets also? And second question, in different ages, so does it happen only in Kali-yuga or in different yugas also?
Alexa, I'm sorry, Prabhu, I got disconnected.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Can I start again?
Please.
Yeah. The great sage Vyasdev saw anomalies in the duties of the millennium. So it's okay till there. Then it says this happens on the earth in different ages. So the question is that does it happen only on the earth planet, all these things, and in different ages? So does it happen only in Kali-yuga or in different ages, and in other ages? So yugas also. That's the question.
The anomalies means discrepancies, decrease of dharma. So in other yugas also it happens, sometimes emergency situation is there, some demon king has come, so there'll be a sudden increase in adharma.
Okay.
For example, in Satyuga, Hiranyakashipu came, there was so much of ill-religious activities performing. So the Lord comes in different times.
Yeah.
The anomalies and it comes.
Yeah. Next question, Prabhuji. In the same part, because of ignorance, they are unable to evaluate the assets of life. Assets of life means what?
Assets of life means like, for example, giving you an example. This body is an asset. The intelligence that I have is an asset, right? Whatever natural resources we get, that's an asset. So all these things should be used for a purpose. What is that purpose? Developing Krishna consciousness.
Bhakti yoga.
But they use this asset in a different manner.
Okay.
So they're not able to evaluate that, with this asset, I can go to Vaikuntha. Instead of doing that, they're using the asset to go to hell. So
Okay.
there's wrong evaluation.
Yeah. And the last question, Prabhuji. The Sudras and the women's class do not have to undergo any samskara, save and accept the ceremony of marriage. So is this an affirmative statement or is it questioning us? Do not have to undergo any samskara means they don't have to go undergo any samskara, because you said all are Sudras. So no samskara now in Kali-yuga.
No, it is mentioned for a particular class, it is mentioned.
Yeah, Sudras and women class do not have to undergo any samskara, save and accept the ceremony of marriage.
Correct. So this is when we talk about Vedic sanskars, right? Vedic sanskar, not the Pancharatrika sanskar, the Vedic sanskar. When you talk about Vedic sanskar, then different classes of people can go through a different set of sanskars only.
Okay.
But when you talk about Pancharatric sanskar, the Vaishnava sanskar, that is open for all without any discrimination.
Okay, got it, Prabhuji. Yeah, Vaishnava, Pancharatrika Sanskara, which is designated by Narad Muniji.
That is open for all. So that's why, like, when it comes to taking Diksha from a Vaishnava Guru, that's a sanskar. Anyone can do that.
Okay, got it, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the answers.
Prabhuji, which are the Vedic sanskar, for example?
Vedic sanskar is like, okay, like one Vedic sanskar is taking Brahmana thread, Janev, right? That's a Vedic sanskar.
Okay.
So this Brahmana thread cannot be taken by a woman.
So the Garbhadhana sanskar is not Vedic sanskar.
That is also Vedic sanskar, na Prabhu. But then you see, for a Shudra, you don't have to do Garbhadhana sanskar to give birth to a Shudra.
Okay, but women go through that.
Yes, women will go through that, but it's not for oneself. No, Garbhadhana sanskar is not for yourself. That is for the child.
Yeah, the child could be a woman.
Yes, the child could be a woman, but then it's not for one's personal application, right? Like when you do Vivaha sanskar, it is for you. But
Okay.
when it's Garbhadhana sanskar, then it's not for you, it's for the child.
I see.
Right? So it's not that a mother has to go through Garbhadhana sanskar for her purification. It's for the purification of the child in the womb of that mother. Marriage is for oneself. So there are sanskars like sannyas is a sanskar, it's a Vedic sanskar. So who can take sannyas? A Shudra can take sannyas? No. A Vaishya can take sannyas? No. Kshatriya can take sannyas? No. Only a Brahmana can take sannyas.
Prabhuji, Vivaha Sanskar is Vedic Sanskara, na?
Which
Vivaha Sanskar is Vedic Sanskar.
Vedic sanskar.
So a woman has to go through.
Vivaha sanskar. Has to go through. Yes. The woman has to go through Vivaha sanskar. It's for her spiritual growth.
Achha.
For her spiritual growth. Woman must go through Vivaha sanskar.
Also, Prabhu, in the Vedic, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, someone can ask me.
Prabhuji, can I ask a question? This is on text 14 about the birth of Vyasdeva. So from what I understood, he was born at the Sandhya of the Treta Yuga, right? And that's
He was born in the Sandhya of Dwapar Yuga.
Okay, Dwapar. So that's the third millennium. No? First millennium is Satya, then second is Treta, and third is Dwapar.
Yes.
So he was born towards the Sandhya of the Dwapar Yuga.
It's the end of the Dwapar.
Okay. No, that's what I wanted clarification. Because from here, the understanding was not very clear. Third millennium appeared prior to the second millennium. And so it was not very clear when was his birth time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Why?
Prabhuji, why
Yeah.
people,
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
why Kali-yuga people are so much interested in matter? Why?
Why they're interested in matter? Because of their see, a person is of a particular nature because of one's past. So who are born in Kali-yuga? Those people who could not successfully made it in the previous yugas. Either one reason is that, or who have been a member of Kali-yuga in the previous Kali-yuga. So they are born in Kali-yuga. So that's their background. That's why they're interested in matter. It's what they're carrying from their past life. So that's why they're interested in matter. Why?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, my question is very similar to Milind Prabhuji's. In the explanation, you said that Vyasa was born at the end of Dwapar Yuga and the beginning of Kali Yuga.
And the end of the Dwapar Yuga means the Sandhya of the Dwapar Yuga. It's quite a long period of time. Sandhya of Dwapar is a quite long period of time. It's not just 1 or 2 years.
Agreed. But Yuga has been translated as millennium in this verse, in this text. So it actually means that it has to be the third millennium and the fourth millennium, right? The third and the fourth millennium at the confluence of the third and the fourth millennium. But here it is in the translation. It is said that when the second millennium overlapped the third, the great sage Vyasa was born. So I'm a little confused. I'm not able to understand this. When the second millennium overlapped the third, so does it mean that Treta Yuga overlapped the Dwapar Yuga, something of that sort, something like that?
Yes. So the confusion there has come because Srila Prabhupada is merging two concepts there. One thing is that he wants to tell people that Vyasa was born in the Sandhya. So overlapping here refers to Sandhya. Okay. And when he says second millennium, 2 millennium overlapping, what he means to say is what he's explained in the purport, that in this particular cycle of 4 yugas, there was a kind of a change in
anomaly,
how the yugas came into existence. So that's why there was an overlapping. So it was not very clear that what period is going on. Is it Treta going on? Is it Dwapar going on? People are not able to understand. But then from the different explanations of different acharyas, we come to understand that it's at the end of Dwapar Yuga that Vyasa was born. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Now, one question is in the chat box. Is there any reference in our Shastras where a person changes his varna in its lifetime? I'm asking this as there was a citation from Srila Prabhupada's purport connected to that. Yes. Vishwamitra, he was a Kshatriya, and then he performed tapasya, then he became a Brahma Rishi. Much more than a Brahman. So people can change their varnas. But it doesn't happen overnight. It happens by going through that sanskar. So people can change. But then people can change on the basis of sanskar by putting the required amount of effort and also by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So varna can change or varna can be developed. Nature can be developed. It's possible. However, it's not that it's going to happen for everyone and anyone. Right? In scriptures, there are examples, but then it's not that scriptures are full of billions and billions of examples of such cases. So people can change if they go through the process of transformation. Especially through the process of bhakti yoga, people can change because bhakti has that power of reformation. Pancharatra or this Pancharatric Vidhi has the power to change people because of purification of heart and elevation of consciousness. If someone becomes a Vaishnava, then that person already becomes qualified to be a Brahmana, can become a Kshatriya, can become a Shudra, Vaishya, anything. So one can change. Bhakti is transcendental to Varna or Guna. Yes, Bhakti is transcendental to Varna or Guna, but that kind of Bhakti should be performed by people. If people engage in materialistic devotional service, that is not, then that kind of Bhakti is not transcendental to Guna and Karma. They will not change. Arjuna was not allowed to take sannyas. Yes, Arjuna was not allowed to take sannyas not because Arjuna cannot take sannyas. Being a pure devotee of Krishna, Arjuna can take sannyas. However, Krishna wanted him to play a different role. So Krishna told him that as he was acting, he was on the drama stage and he was taking the role of a Kshatriya. So Krishna told him, you are a karma adhikari. You are not a jnana adhikari. And because of that, you should engage in your duty and teach others by example. It's not that Arjuna, if Krishna tells him to take sannyas, is not qualified to take sannyas. Arjuna was very much renounced. He lived in the forest for 12 long years, lived like a tapasvi. Why he cannot take sannyas? In that same body he went to Swarga. And when Urvashi approached him for spending some good time, having some romance, Arjuna refused. So if a person can refuse the temptation of association with such a beautiful woman, he can definitely take sannyas also. As a pure devotee, he can do. So, but in that role which he was playing, Krishna wanted him to play a particular role. So he said, you don't take sannyas. Chatur Varnamaya system only Krishna created. He created the system and he made the society in that particular order. But it's not that he's imposing on us that you are born in a particular Varna. We are born in a particular Varna because of our karma. It's not like, for example, there is a school and the school is going to give you education. There are different streams of knowledge, science, commerce, arts. The system is made by the school, the education department. It doesn't mean that the school is telling you that, or school is enforcing on you that you should be studying this subject only. You decide, okay, my nature, my inclination is towards this subject, so I go for this particular stream. But the system is made by the school. Like if you study this education, then you can get a job in this sector. If you study that, you get a job in that sector. So Krishna made a system. It's not that Krishna is giving us a particular nature and that's how we are. We take up nature based on our previous karma and our desire. A person who is born as a Shudra in this life, in the next life, that person can be born as a Brahmana. And a person born as a Brahmana in the previous life can be born as a Shudra in the next life. It's not that Varna and Ashrama is something related to soul. It is based on the body. It's based on the psychological mind. It's based on my karmas. It's based on my desires. It's based on my qualities, which I acquire on the basis of what I do in my life. So Krishna made the system. A system has to be there for people to work together, cooperate. So he made a system that you work together. In working together, you go back to the spiritual world or to make spiritual progress. That's the system based on qualification. So Krishna made the system And then there are people who are going to fit into that system because of their past. And while they fit into that system, they work as per that system to make progress. Now, this is how it used to be in the Vedic times. When it comes to the Kali-yuga, the system is totally spoiled, right? Totally spoiled. So in Kali-yuga, people are not really into the system. However, by doing sadhana bhakti, slowly, they start falling into the system, because slowly, they are able to understand that I have one nature which is more predominating than the other natures, and then I can, nourish that aspect of mine, and I can work as per that nature. So that nature can be as that of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And then they can come together to make communities, again, society, work on the basis of that nature and move ahead in spiritual life. So for people to successfully implement Varnashram in Kali-yuga, the only possible way is that first they should become Vaishnavas, or they should be inclined towards the practice of devotional service, whether directly or indirectly, and then they can be engaged in activities as per their nature, which will help them to do some kind of Krishna consciousness. In this way, they can make progress. Daiva Varnashrama. But for ordinary people who are engaged in sinful life, what can they be? What can they do in Varnashram? They are not even really humans now. So Varnashram system in Kali-yuga is very difficult thing. Only for devotees it may apply, and it's getting applied also. Just that we have to make communities. That's all we have to do. We have to make communities. Otherwise, individually devotees are working as per their nature. In the temple, someone who is of Kshatriya nature is engaged in services like that. And then, for those who are Vaishya in nature, they engage in services like that. Those who are Shudra in nature, they engage in services like that. Those who are Brahmana in nature, they engage in services like that. It is naturally happening. All right, we'll stop here. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. See you on Thursday. We'll try to cover the remaining verses of this chapter. Srimadbhagavatam ki jai. Srimadbhagavatam Mahabharata ki jai.